This is exactly why 96% of golfers struggle to start the downswing from the lower body. It's all to do with the way we take the club back in the backswing. So the tendency for a lot of golfers is that as they make the way to start the golf swing, to trigger this movement to take place, is that they start to lift the hands like this here too early in the golf swing. So from setup position, we lift the hands too early in this position here with limited rotation, so that causes us at the top of the swing to reduce what we call the width of arc. The distance between my hands and my chest has reduced from the start of the golf swing all the way up into the top of the backswing with limited to no rotation in my lower body. So we're lifting the hands up too early with no rotation whatsoever in the lower body, which causes our hands to get too close to us in this position here. And what I want you to remember is that the golf swing works in reaction. So whatever we do in the backswing, we usually do the opposite in the downswing. So if we've reduced this width of arc from the start of the golf swing here, the distance between my hands and my body, all the way up to the top of the swing is reduced here, we're going to be wanting to do the opposite in the downswing. So the opposite in the downswing would be to react and force the hands to cast out like this here. And when we force the hands to cast out like this here, it triggers the movement from the upper body to start the downswing phase. So this is why a lot of you out there are really struggling to start the golf swing from the lower body. So in order for us to correct this movement here and stop our arms and our upper body starting that downswing phase, we want to be looking into how we can stop this from taking place in the first place, to stop that bad reaction we have from backswing to downswing. So to kick things off, we're going to be looking at how we can increase and maintain this width of arc all the way up to the top of the golf swing. And it's to do with two things. The first one, we just want to be encouraging the club to be taken back on a much wider takeaway here. And that's going to help do two things. It's going to help us increase that width of arc, of course, but it's also going to help us stay more stable. So to do this, you're going to take the club and put it on the ground for now. You're going to place your hands both out in front of you with the palms pointing towards the ground. From this position here, the feeling is that you're going to be pushing your hands down towards the golf ball without losing your posture. So when I teach a lot of clients this, they sort of dip down like this to start off with. So it's really important that you stay upright in your athletic posture that you're in. You're pushing your palms towards the ground, you're extending both arms in this position here, and you're pushing them as far away from you as possible up until this point here. From this point all the way up to the top, the right arm will start to flex. For right-handed golfers, obviously the opposite for left-handed. The left arm will flex. So this is really going to encourage you to feel what it's like to increase that width of arc and maintain that width of arc all the way up until the top of the backswing. We're just going to eliminate any sort of early wrist hinge and picking the club up too early in the golf swing. So to get this feeling right with the golf club, you're just going to set up as you normally would. Really force, as soon as you start that golf swing, the hands to push down like this here. And when I push down, I'm still feeling that sensation of my palms going sort of towards the golf ball along the ground and pushing them towards the ground and away from my chest as much as I possibly can to help me increase this width of arc, feeling like we're increasing that width of arc. We'd much rather see a wide arc on the backswing as opposed to a narrow arc. A narrow arc, as I mentioned earlier, causes that casting motion and for the upper body to take place starting that downswing. The feeling with the golf club is dead simple. We're pushing that grip away from our body as much as we possibly can. Pushing our hands down, our palms down towards the ground, and pushing our hands and grip away from our body as much as we possibly can. But as I mentioned before, there's two things we want to be looking at to stop this casting motion. We've looked at one thing in particular, and that's helping us increase that width of arc and maintaining that width of arc in the backswing, but there was another thing I mentioned. The other thing was limited to no rotation going all the way into the top of the swing. We're able to rotate this upper body, but there's no rotation coming from the lower body. To get this motion, you're going to take the club away now for the second drill. You're going to place your hands across your shoulders like so. And I want you to gather the feeling that as you're rotating and trying to push those hands as far away from you as possible. You're trying to get this right hip to twist back towards the wall behind you. So for me, it's quite easy because I'm in an indoor golf studio, the golf projects, but if you're out on the golf course and you're setting up on a tee box, feel like that trail hip, so your right hip, being a right-handed golfer, is twisting away from the golf ball and towards the tee marker behind you. That's going to give you a great sensation of transferring that weight more onto the trail side, but also loading in the correct way here. You can see how much room I'm giving myself here now to be able to push my hands further away from my chest. So these two work together. I've just quickly placed an alignment stick here just to show you that as we twist back, you've got the sensation of trying to get that right hip, of course, away from the golf ball, but you can also have the feeling of the lead hip turning towards the alignment stick. So it's entirely up to you here. Some golfers that I've taught prefer that right hip, the trail hip, rotating away from the golf ball to give themselves more room, but other golfers I've taught have preferred the opposite, where they feel a lead hip rotating towards the alignment stick down on the ground. So I'd like you to go and try this out on the driving range and do those two motions to see which one suits you. Feel free to comment down below and let me know which one suits you, and I might possibly do a full video on this to show you how this really impacts the golf swing. So moving on from this, I'm going to take the alignment stick away now. We've got the club back and we've thought about those two things, and for me the feeling is that right hip, the trail hip, sort of rotating away from the golf ball as opposed to the lead hip towards the alignment stick, the imaginary alignment stick on the ground. And now we're going to try and put them both together in one move, and you can do this to start off with having the palms on the ground like so. No club in the hands, feeling that trail hip twisting towards the wall behind you as you're pushing your hands away. You can see how much I'm able to push my hands further away from my body into a much higher backswing position as I start to rotate that trail hip away from the golf ball. So you can do a couple of drills doing that and then bring this in to the golf club. So setting up as normal again, pushing our hands down, pushing that grip away from our body as we rotate those hips away from the golf ball. And whether the feeling is from the lead hip to the ball or trail hip away from ball, I'm going to go with trail hip away from the golf ball as mentioned to keep things simple for you. So I'm pushing my trail hip away from the golf ball and I'm pushing my hands as far away as I can from my chest. So this is going to allow us to get to the very top of the backswing and set up in a great athletic position with loads of room now to be able to transition into the downswing. So to transition now into the downswing, we want to be allowing that sensation to start from the lower body. We've got this right reaction, we've increased that width of arc all the way up to the top of the backswing, and we've allowed ourselves to get that rotation in place, ready to fire. So to fire in the downswing, I'm going to be giving you another drill. So take the club, put it on the ground for now again. We're going to be putting our hands now across our chest. Feel that rotation, that right hip going away up to the top of the backswing. Take your lead hand and put it on your lead pocket, and we're pushing that now away from the golf ball. That's going to allow you to feel that trigger starting from the lower body to start that downswing phase, improving that what we call swing sequence in your golf game. So we're up to the top, feel that left hip starting the downswing, and you can see here watching this in slow-mo, as that left hip rotates out the way, my upper body just starts to follow and it catches up at the end. And this will happen naturally as long as you allow your upper body, so your shoulders, your arms, your hands to relax. If we're firing from the lower body, allow the upper body to stay relaxed and the upper body will just naturally catch up. Taking this into the golf club now, up to the top of the swing, firing that lead hip out the way, and that's going to help you do two things. Improve that swing sequence as I mentioned earlier, but also create more lag in your golf swing. Are you finding as well that when you're doing this action, you're struggling to start the downswing from the lower body, you get this casting motion and you can't create any lag? That's why. We've worked on those two things all the way up to the top of the backswing, and now the golf swing works in reactions. If we're going to push our hands all the way up to the top, increasing that width of arc at the top of the backswing position, that's going to help us increase what we call the lag in the downswing. But this is going to happen naturally. I want you just to think, if I can relax the upper body, the arms, the hands, and even the wrist. That's going to help you lag the club as you start to trigger this lead hip to twist away from the golf ball. But we want to be careful. We want to be careful that we don't shift towards our target. So a good way of ensuring that you're not shifting away from the target is taking an alignment stick again and placing it back where we had it beforehand, just like this here behind the golf ball. What you want to be ensuring is that as you start the downswing phase, you're not shifting this lead hip towards the net, your target. You're trying to shift that lead hip away from the golf ball. And that's going to help you keep your swing center over the golf ball, which is why I've got this alignment stick here for you to check this point as you're making your way through these swing motions and hitting some golf shots doing this. You're getting up to the top of your swing, firing that lead hip out the way, creating more lag in your golf swing, improving that swing center and twisting around your axis as opposed to shifting either side. That's going to really help you improve that ball striking, create a better dynamic loft, improve the angle of attack, and square up the face more often at impact. Go ahead, give this a try, and we'll see you in the next video.